You know that feeling when you play a conversation back in your head, over and over, looking for the exact moment it all went to hell? I've been doing that for 72 hours straight. And I keep landing on the same stupid, glittery, champagne-soaked moment. It was Ezra's birthday party. His 30th, a big deal. He'd rented out this cool little gallery space downtown, and everyone was there. His friends, his family, and my new colleagues. God, my colleagues. I just started this new job in PR like 3 months ago, and I was so desperate for them to think I was cool. They're also effortlessly chic. They talk about summering in places I can't even pronounce, and their inside jokes are all about people I've only read about in magazines. I felt like a fraud, honestly, just standing there in my Zara dress, trying to laugh at the right times. Ezra, of course, was floating through the room like he was born in it. He's just got that warmth. He makes everyone feel like they're the most important person there. He brought me over to the little circle where Gideon from finance and Beatrice from marketing were holding court. They were telling these insane stories, and I was just nodding, sipping my Prosecco, feeling my throat get tight. I needed an in. I needed to be more than just Ezra's quiet girlfriend. Then it happened. Ezra was talking about how he learned to be so self-reliant, and he made some offhand comment about his dad teaching him to always have a backup plan. And my brain, my stupid, desperate-to-please brain, saw an opening. It felt like a flash of genius, I swear. I leaned in, all conspiratorial, and said, "Well, you learn a lot about backup plans when your dad's your pen pal for 5 to 10 years. There was this half-second of pure, deafening silence. And then, because they were all just staring at me with these wide eyes, I panicked and added this little laugh like it was nothing, and said, "Come on, it's 2024. Who doesn't have a little family drama, right?" And can you believe it? They exploded. Not just a little chuckle, but a full-on, gut-busting laugh. Gideon, who I'd never seen do more than smirk, was actually wiping a tear from his eye. Beatrice clapped me on the shoulder and said, "Oh my God, you're wicked." I felt this rush, this hot wave of relief and success. I did it. I was in. I was one of them. In that moment, I was so focused on their laughter that I barely noticed Ezra. When I finally glanced over, he was smiling, but it wasn't his real smile. It was the one he uses for photos. A perfect, empty shape. I just figured he was surprised, maybe a little embarrassed, but proud of me for finally clicking with my work friends. I really, truly believed that. God, I was an idiot. The high from their laughter, that feeling of being accepted, it carried me through the rest of the night. I felt like I was floating, like I'd finally cracked the code. We said our goodbyes. I gave Beatrice a hug like we were old friends, and Ezra smiled and thanked everyone for coming. It all felt so normal. But the moment the Uber door clicked shut, it was like a switch was flipped. The air inside the car was thick and cold. The silence was so loud it felt like my ears were ringing. I kept replaying the moment in my head, but like the highlight reel version, Gideon's booming laugh, Beatrice's approving nod. I was the star, so I decided to break the silence, keep the good vibes going. "So, that was fun, right?" I said, nudging his shoulder playfully. I think Gideon finally gets my sense of humor. He didn't even turn his head. He just kept watching the streetlights smear across the window. After a long moment, he just said, "Yeah, fun." Okay, the tone was off, way off. My stomach did this little nervous flip. "What's wrong?" I tried to keep my voice light. "You're being weird." He finally looked at me, and his eyes were just empty. There was no anger, no sadness, just nothing. "I'm just tired, Jasmine." "No, it's about the joke, isn't it?" I couldn't help it. A little bit of annoyance crept into my voice. "God, Ezra, it was just a joke. You can't be that sensitive about it. It was funny. Everyone thought it was funny." He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He just turned back to the window. "Okay," he said, "just okay." And that was worse. That one word was a brick wall. I wanted him to yell at me, to tell me I was an idiot, to have a fight so we could make up. But he gave me nothing. When we got back to our apartment, the silence followed us in. He put his keys in the bowl by the door, took off his shoes, and started walking toward the bedroom. I thought, okay, this is it. We'll get into bed and he'll finally talk to me. But he walked right past our bedroom door and grabbed a pillow and a blanket from the linen closet. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He didn't look at me. He just kept his back to me. I'm really tired," he said again, his voice flat and monotone. I think I'm gonna sleep in the guest room tonight. I just stood there in the hallway, clutching my purse, as he walked to the spare room and closed the door. It didn't slam, it just clicked shut. And in that tiny, quiet sound, I felt a kind of terror I'd never known before. I told myself he was just tired, maybe a little drunk. He'd be fine in the morning. Right? He had to be. I woke up to the sound of traffic, which was weird. Usually, I wake up to the sound of Ezra's coffee grinder. The space next to me in bed was cold, the sheet perfectly smooth. My first thought wasn't panic, it was annoyance. Like, seriously? He's still sulking. I figured he was on the couch, giving me the silent treatment. So dramatic. I padded out of the bedroom, ready to roll my eyes and tell him to grow up. But the guest room door was open, the blanket neatly folded at the end of the bed. The whole apartment was still and silent. His keys were gone from the bowl. His work bag wasn't by the door. He was just gone. Okay, now I was starting to feel a little prickle of anxiety. I grabbed my phone to text him something like, "Okay, you've made your point." But before I could, a notification popped up on my screen. It was an email from Cozy Nest, the app we use to pay our rent. The subject line was, "Update to your household access." I opened it. "Dear Jasmine," it read. "This email is to confirm that your access to the shared lease for apartment 4 billion has been revoked by the primary leaseholder, Ezra Vance." I read it 3 times. Revoked, what the hell did that even mean? It had to be a mistake, a glitch in the app. Maybe he was trying to update his payment info and clicked the wrong button. Yeah, that had to be it. I mean, you don't kick someone off the lease over a bad joke, right? That's insane. I spent the day trying to work from home, but I couldn't focus. I kept checking my phone, waiting for him to call and say, "Oh my God, you won't believe what the stupid app did." But nothing came. By evening, a real heavy dread had settled in my stomach. I decided to just try and numb out, watch some trashy TV. I turned on the TV, opened Netflix, and my profile was gone. It wasn't like I was logged out. My little icon, the purple one with a J, the one with my perfectly curated continue watching list, it was just deleted. There was his profile, a generic guest profile, and that was it. It was such a small thing, but it felt so violent. He had to go into the settings, select my profile, and manually click delete. Who does that? But the thing that actually made me cry, the thing that shattered me, was later that night. I was sitting there in the dark, and I just wanted to feel normal. So I said it out loud, the little command he'd set up for me when we first moved in. "Hey speaker, it's Jasmine's movie night." Usually, the lights would dim to a warm glow, the TV would turn on and switch to the right input, and the little soundbar would connect. It was his dorky, sweet way of taking care of me. But this time, after a second of silence, the speaker just replied in its chipper, robotic voice. "I'm sorry, I don't recognize that command." He had deleted me, the command itself, and that's when I finally understood. He hadn't blocked my number. He hadn't unfriended me on social media. This wasn't a tantrum. This was a procedure. It was a calm, methodical, step-by-step erasure of our life together. And I was just sitting in the middle of it, holding my phone, with absolutely no idea what to do next. For 3 days, I lived in that apartment like a ghost. I'd text him these long, rambling messages that started angry, then turned pleading, then angry again. They all just sat there, delivered but unread. I called, and it would ring and ring until it went to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. What would I even say? "Hey, sorry I used your deepest family trauma as a punchline to impress people I barely know. Can you please add my Netflix profile back?" It sounded insane, even in my own head. I was losing my mind. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I just kept replaying that stupid joke, his frozen smile, the sound of the guest room door clicking shut. By Wednesday, I was desperate. I knew I couldn't just show up at his new office. He just started a consulting gig. But I knew my colleagues would be going for their usual happy hour at that bar across the street. So I went. I told myself I was just going to have a drink, but I knew I was hunting. I spotted Olivia at a corner table with a couple of people from sales. Olivia's always been the nicest of the bunch, the most human. I took a deep breath and walked over, trying to look casual. "Hey guys," I said, forcing a smile. They all looked up and the vibe immediately got weird, awkward. They exchanged these quick, uncomfortable glances. "Jasmine," Olivia said, her voice a little too high. "Hey, how are you?" "I'm okay," I lied. "Listen, Olivia, can I talk to you for a second? In private." She looked like she'd rather have a root canal, but she nodded and followed me to a quiet spot by the window. I just couldn't hold it in anymore. The words just tumbled out of me. "Have you heard from Ezra? Is he okay? He's not answering my calls, he left the apartment, he deleted me from everything. I don't understand what's happening." I mean, it was just a joke, right? A stupid, stupid joke, but this feels crazy. Olivia wouldn't meet my eyes. She was staring at a scuff mark on her shoe, just tracing it with her toe. "Jasmine," she started and then stopped. She took a deep breath. "Look, this is really awkward, but Ezra came to the office on Monday." My heart leaped. He did. "To see me?" "No," she said softly, finally looking up at me. Her expression was full of pity, and God, that was almost worse than anger. "He came to see me and Gideon and Beatrice. The ones who were there. He asked to speak with us for a few minutes." "What did he say?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Did he tell you what a bitch I am? Did he tell you to stay away from me?" "No," she said, shaking her head. "It was the opposite. He apologized to us." I just stared at her, completely baffled. "He what? Why would he apologize?" "He said he was sorry that we were put in such an uncomfortable position at his party," Olivia explained, her voice low. "He said he knew you didn't mean it maliciously, that you were just trying to fit in and you get nervous sometimes. He told us that his father's story is a really painful part of his life, a wound that never really healed, and he didn't want us to judge you for it. He basically asked us to protect you, to make sure it didn't affect your reputation at work." The floor felt like it was tilting beneath my feet. I had spent days painting him as this overly sensitive, dramatic guy who couldn't take a joke. But he hadn't been thinking about himself at all. He had been thinking about me, about my job. While he was systemically dismantling our life, he was also building a firewall around my career. He took the blame. He absorbed the impact. He made himself the footnote to my mistake, all to protect me from the consequences of my own cruelty. And in that moment, standing in that noisy bar, I had never felt so small, so ugly, and so utterly, completely alone. A few months went by. Months of me living in the ghost of our apartment, paying the full rent myself because I was too ashamed to admit to my landlord that I couldn't afford it alone. Months of me being a model employee at work. I kept my head down, I did my job, I didn't joke, I didn't try to be friends with anyone. I just existed. The laughter from that night echoed in my head, but now it sounded mocking, like they were all laughing at me. Olivia was always polite but distant. We never spoke about it again. Then came the company's annual awards dinner. It was mandatory, a big, glitzy affair in a hotel ballroom downtown. I hated every second of it. The forced smiles, the clinking glasses, the CEO making the same tired jokes he made last year. I was just trying to be invisible, hiding at a table with some people from it, nursing a glass of cheap white wine and counting the minutes until I could leave without anyone noticing. And then I saw him, and my stomach just dropped, like through the floor. He was standing near the bar, talking to Gideon, not just talking, but laughing. He was laughing that deep, real laugh of his, the one that crinkled the corners of his eyes. The one I hadn't heard in months. He was wearing a dark suit that fit him perfectly, and he looked happy. He looked relaxed and confident, and so damn handsome it hurt to breathe. I couldn't understand. What was he doing here? And then I saw Olivia walk up to him, hand him a drink, and loop her arm through his. She was his plus one. Of course she was. I couldn't look away. It was like watching a car crash. I watched as Beatrice came over and gave him a warm hug. I saw him get drawn into their circle, the very circle I had tried so desperately to break into. And he wasn't trying at all. He was just being himself. His kind, charming, decent self, and they loved him for it. They weren't laughing at a cruel joke, they were smiling at him. At one point, his eyes scanned the room, and for a fraction of a second, they met mine. My entire body went rigid. I think I stopped breathing. I thought I'd see anger or pain or maybe even satisfaction. But there was nothing. It was like looking at a stranger. He didn't smile, he didn't scowl. He just nodded. A tiny, polite, almost imperceptible dip of his chin. The kind of nod you give a doorman or the barista who hands you your coffee. An acknowledgement of presence, nothing more. And then his attention was right back on Olivia, and they were laughing about something, and I was gone. I had been dismissed. That's when I finally got the punchline. I wanted their laughter so badly that I used his deepest pain as the price of admission. I had made him the clown for my one-woman show. And in the end, they didn't want the show. They just wanted the man. I was the one left on the outside, in the cheap dress, with the sour wine, completely and utterly alone. I was the joke. I don't remember the end of the dinner. I must have left, must have gotten a cab. The next thing I knew, I was standing in the hallway of the apartment, our apartment, my apartment, whatever. It felt cavernous and empty. All the little things that made it a home were his. The weird painting he bought at a flea market, the stack of National Geographics on the coffee table, the stupidly expensive espresso machine he cherished. Without him, it was just a box with furniture in it. I walked into the bedroom and my phone buzzed on the nightstand. For a stupid, hopeful second, my heart jumped. But it was just a notification from my cloud storage. A year ago today, it said, showing a collage of pictures. It was from his birthday last year. We'd gone hiking, just the two of us. There was a picture of him grinning at the summit, sweaty and happy. There was one of me, laughing as I tried to steal his granola bar. And there was a selfie he took, his arm around me, kissing my temple. We looked so easy, so happy. There was no performance, no audience, just us. I sank down onto the bed, scrolling through the photos. Hundreds of them. Holidays, lazy Sundays, stupid faces we'd make at each other across the room. A whole life, documented in pixels. A life I had set on fire for a handful of cheap laughs from people whose last names I probably couldn't even remember. And that's when the words finally came to me, the ones I should have said in the Uber, in the hallway, in all those unread texts. The apology, the real one. Not the "I'm sorry you were offended" kind, but the "I'm sorry I was a monster" kind. I started typing a text to him, my thumbs shaking. Ezra, I know this is pointless now, but I need to say it. I am so sorry. What I did was cruel and unforgivable. I kept typing, pouring out all the regret and shame that had been rotting inside me for months. But then I stopped. Who was this for? Was it to make him feel better? Or was it to make me feel better? To absolve myself? I deleted the whole message. It was too late for words. The damage was done. The only thing left to do was to live with it. I turned off my phone and just sat there in the dark, the silence of the apartment pressing in on me. I thought about the joke, the punchline, the laughter, and I whispered it out loud to the empty room, my voice cracking. I just wanted them to like me. How did it end up like this?